I'm so excited about this next show. Sibling rivalry is one thing, right? But in this next show, The Better Sister, it's a bit more complicated than that. What happens when one sister marries the other's ex-husband and raises their child as their own? It's not going to end well, is it? Adapted from the novel by Alafair Burke, we follow Chloe, played by Jessica Biel, as she lives a lovely life with her successful career, handsome lawyer husband, and son Ethan, while her sister Nikki struggles to get her life back on track after a period of addiction and losing custody of her child, with Nikki played by Elizabeth Banks. Then a shocking tragedy strikes and long-buried secrets begin to emerge. So now, please join me in welcoming co-showrunner and executive producer Olivia Milch, and co-showrunner and executive producer Regina Corrado. And joining us virtually, executive producer and starring as Chloe, Jessica Biel, and executive producer and starring as Nikki, Elizabeth Banks. So I want to start with Jessica and Elizabeth and ask how you came to the show, because I can't think of a better pairing to do this, because you actually have to play these estranged sisters who, underneath it all, there's this thread of real closeness and love with layers of really irritated hatred and resentment. And that, to me, is perfect siblings. So maybe, Jessica, you could start and talk about how you came to it and kind of combined forces together.
Sure. Well, interestingly enough, initially I was looking at the Nikki role. And so it was this kind of looking at Nikki, looking at Chloe, and then we just landed in the places where we were meant to land as people and as artists. And I just got really lucky to be asked to be a part of such an amazing group of women, and to work with Elizabeth was a dream. And Olivia and Regina, just creating such a cool experience with all of these major, females at the heads of all these incredible departments. Yeah, it was just like a wonderful, wonderful thing to be asked to be a part of.
How about you, Elizabeth?
Well, I am happy to report that sometimes your agent just sends you a great script, which is their job, and this actually worked out. I really loved the scripts. I loved the idea of being this character. Craig Gillespie directed our pilot, and he sort of got on the phone with me early on and said, I just want to see you with messed up hair and messed up nails and just messed up and be funny and be wild. And I said, well, who's playing Chloe? And he said, Jessica. And I thought, I've been hearing for years that we look alike, which I have always taken to be the biggest compliment in town, because Jessica's one of the most beautiful people in Hollywood. And so I was really intrigued by the idea of being sisters. I have two sisters myself, and I also really saw this dynamic between them as something I was really excited to explore.
I honestly can't think of a better casting. It's just magic. And you guys are very lucky you got to see a clip up front, but the show comes out May 29th. So you're ahead of the game today. So Olivia, let's start with you as well. Can you talk about why this material felt right now, this adaptation?
Absolutely. So it's based on an incredible book by Alafair Burke, and it's so fun. Go read it. Twisty, turny, amazing. And she's a former prosecutor, so the trial and the crime. But I think the thing that really stuck with us when I was reading was this idea that siblings get different versions of their parents, depending on birth order. And that shapes your identity. It shapes how you conceive of yourself, how you conceive of your sibling, and particularly if there is a moment of sobriety for a parent. You know, I was 10 when my dad got sober, my sister was 15, my brother was 13. We had very different experiences and memories of our childhood, and that's at play for these characters as well, for Nikki and Chloe. So I think that was the thing both Regina and I felt like, that's real. We can sink the roots deep in that, and it's a kind of a universal experience, because even if you're an only child, you look back on your parents and you think, who was I at their age? Who are they now? I mean, you realize that it just has such an impact on you and who you continue to be, and really the story you tell yourself about who you are. And that's really at the heart of the show. So we were just so excited to get to play in that world.
But also, what's more savage than family? That's exciting.
Regina, what were some of the challenges that you knew you were going to have to face setting out to make this? Because to me, once you cast your two women that are really holding the crux of the story together, there's still a lot more moving parts. There's amazing other cast involved, like Kim Dickens plays this very sort of acerbic detective who's quite scary. And Lorraine Toussaint plays Chloe's very kind of powerful queen-like boss. So tell me about some of the casting and some of the other aspects of putting this together.
I think the challenge is always to love every single one of them equally. And that is so exciting. So challenge, yes, but it's also like that's the goal for us always in the writing, in the casting, in talking things through, and all of the things that come with it. It's just like anything else. You can't short shrift any person or any character. Everything has to be, I love this person, and I'm going to spend a lot of time with them. We spend so much time talking through every single one of the characters.
Some of our other producers would be like, really, bellhop 3 guys? I don't think we need the backstory, you know? It's okay, but I think you feel it in the show. It's like it's carried by these amazing, amazing women, and the performances they give are just mind-blowing. And then the rest of our ensemble, we would pinch ourselves every day, you know, who we got to work with in this story we got to tell with our collaborators.
You know, what I really love about the show, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, so we'll talk sort of in vagaries, but when we first meet Nikki, I mean, I'm judging her. She seems, you know, like a hot mess. And we're on sort of Chloe's side, who has this very refined, successful life. And then as the show goes on, Nikki is this truth teller, and we come to love her. And there's this perfect moment that really shows the connection that you, Elizabeth and Jessica, have, where you're kind of filled with this kind of resentment. Nikki's in Chloe's house, and suddenly it turns, where the police come in, and you suddenly are united without saying a word about it. You're suddenly sisters. And it is so unspoken and so perfect. Can you talk about how you built that kind of connection that we can feel without you having to say anything?
Ooh, Jess, you want to take that?
Honestly, I was also thinking about how to answer that, but I don't know. I felt like an immediate connection the first time when we had lunch together that time in the Valley. And before we started shooting anything, I feel like you've been in my world and my brain and around, you know, somehow my energy. And when we finally sat down together, it just felt like we'd known each other for a very, very long time, or many lives or something. And we kind of slid into these natural roles. EB, I don't know if you remember, but we were talking about camp.
Yes.
And you were like, all right, here's the deal. Here's what you're going to do. You're being too soft. You're being too easy on him. He can do it. And I was like, okay, all right. Like, she was talking me through how to help my kid get to camp. Her boys are older and going, you know, been in camp longer. This was my kid's first year. And it was just, I was the younger sister. She was the older sister. And that's just the dynamic. And it has been that way since that first coffee or whatever we had. And I don't know, it just, it was that connection has been there, and then we squabble and fight and are nasty and, you know, do all the funny and fun things and juicy things that we get to do in the show. But when it's time to, you know, without any verbal communication, to be aligned and be together and fight, you know, come as like one, you know, wall moving forward, even if we know we're total full of shit and lying, we just fell right into that. At least that's the way it felt to me.
I feel like our connection also, I love what you just said. I agree totally. I felt like the big sister right away, which I'm the oldest of four. I felt also like we were making this whole show together. So having each other's backs, wanting the best, you know, needing it to be great, wanting to pull things out of each other, that was naturally our state of being working on the show, and that is what the sisters are doing as well. So it's sort of all the experience was mirroring each other, and came together really beautifully. And then we had these incredible partners in Olivia and Regina and everybody else who works on the show. I mean, you mentioned Kim Dickens. She and I had a really special connection that was forged in the writing, and then, you know, came through in our playfulness with each other, really seeing each other. I just felt like everything sort of connected in real life as well as on screen in a way that you don't always get, and I feel really grateful for.
Really well said. I also wanted to ask you about being part, this is for all of you or any of you that wants to answer it, being part, and Jessica, that's how much I believe in your character. I'm now calling you Chloe.
Works for me.
You touched on this a minute ago about being part of a female-led production. And this is a show that is led by female characters. All the women in this show are really, really powerful people that are kind of at the top of their game. Even though Nikki has struggled, she comes out as this champion of truth. I just love how this show is really about women. Can any of you speak to being part of a female-led production and story?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we love all people on our team, and we're very, very grateful. We had a lot of amazing men on our team. But with that being said, no, I think that I think both Regina and I love telling stories about excellent, complicated women. And we were so lucky to get this material and have this material be brought to us by producers, Tomorrow Studios, who are incredible and have amazing men on their team, but Becky and Alyssa, who were really with us. And it just sort of happened that as we were building the team, it ended up being mostly female-led. And I think that, you know, having both Elizabeth and Jessica are amazing producers and directors, and, you know, so I think there was just so much experience and so much commitment to collaboration at the highest level. And I think what you felt was a real sense of love and camaraderie and community, and maybe a little less ego than maybe you sometimes feel when there's other dynamics at play. But I think really it just was, we all went to set every day and had a lot of fun and did really good work. And that's the best. That's all you can ever ask for. And so I think it was just the alchemy of the group of people who came together. And that's the best.
I have to say there is room for a second season. There is plenty that could happen. Again, no one here has seen it, so I don't want to spoil it, but just trust me, you're going to want another one. So would you guys do that? Would you be interested if that was floated to you, any of you?
I mean, I can answer for Regina. In a blink of an eye, beat of a heart, we're there. You know, we would do anything to get to continue to work with these amazing women and characters. And Regina and I just are constantly telling the story to each other. So we would love if we could tell it to everybody else also.
Just to wrap it up, is there a favorite moment or a favorite memory from the set? Or even a scene that you guys shot that really stands out for you? Maybe Elizabeth, you could start.
You know, I really loved shining a light on AA. I think Alcoholics Anonymous is an incredible organization. I got to do a lot of sharing. You know, it's always hard to figure out how to put tons of exposition into anything. And I feel like the AA shares that I got to do really got to build a lot of backstory for my character, Nikki. And we got to shine a light on a really interesting organization that I have tons of respect for. So I really loved working on all those scenes and with Paul Sparks. But every day that I got to work on a sister scene with Jessica was super fun. The very beginning in the apartment, when she first shows up while they're figuring each other out again, I also really loved the idea of like two women who know all their deepest, darkest secrets, can push all of the buttons with each other, but are holding everything back in the hopes of reconciliation. And I just felt I loved that tension that we got to build.
It's amazing. What about you, Jessica?
Yeah, definitely same. Every scene that we got to do, Elizabeth and I got to do together, the sister dynamic. I was thinking about this really, really amazing fight we get into on the balcony or the patio, whatever you want to call it, of my apartment. And I loved the way it was shot, where actually we get sort of shut out of the house because our son is speaking to his lawyer and we are out. She shuts us out and we are yelling and screaming at each other, but you can't hear us. You just see us like gesticulating and like pointing and hair flipping around and people pacing back and forth. And I just really loved shooting that. And I think one of the things that I didn't expect to find working on this show was how much humor was like flying around all the time. I mean, it was in the scripts. Obviously, Olivia and Regina are incredibly funny humans, as well as so many other things. And everybody knows, we all know, Elizabeth, you're hilarious. It's a real vulnerability of mine. Like, I feel like I just learned a lot about how to be really funny amidst like some really torturous, hard, dramatic stuff. Like, I feel like I'm pretty solid with that other stuff. But so learning that every day was nerve-wracking and hard a little bit, but also I just feel like I had a dream team of like funny lady pros around me all the time. So that was always like a real gift. And I really enjoyed working with Max, who played our son. He is just like a bright light of sunshine. And it was really cool to watch him work every day. He's an impressive kid.
So funny, we all had that same reaction to that scene because it's one of my favorites too.
And mine.
Yeah. And then because we shot it into, on set, and then we took it to location, and the piece where Kim Dickens comes out and calls them back in to chat with the attorneys and the police. Elizabeth and Jessica were improving a lot, and it was getting funnier and funnier and funnier. And so when we were going through dailies, I was like, we missed that. We got to put that back in. I mean, it was just amazing, incredible experience.
Yeah, the jokes. And now we have a tight five we've prepared for you guys to show off our comedy. No, I'm kidding. I think that was the humor and the joy, even in the midst of all of the pain. I think the fundamental reality of these sisters' relationships is there's so many secrets, but they know each other's ultimate truth. And that is what we get to, and what family actually is about. So I think having that hand in hand with comedy, which is the way life is, right? It's tragedy and comedy simultaneously in every given moment. And we were able to find that together, and it was pretty fun.
I just want to say you are going to love this show. All the episodes hit Prime Video on May 29th. Get ready, buckle up. It is so good. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.